Okay, so you humiliated a man in a bar. I feel like this could go either way. I'm either gonna be very disappointed in you, or I'm gonna be so proud of you. Happy apple picking day! As always, some reminders for any of our new friends. If you want to transfer your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/Am I the Bad Apple. And as a reminder, we all come from different branches of the apple tree, and what that means is we've all lived different lives. Our different paths in life have given us experiences that shape our opinion and how we view the world. So that's why we practice constructive conversation down in the comments, because sometimes you might learn something new, sometimes I might learn something new, sometimes we might teach someone something new. No one is too old to learn new things or to change their stance on a topic. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for dumping my boyfriend over his age? I, 28 female, have been dating Hone, 51 male, for about a year after meeting on Hinge. I know that sounds like a crazy age gap, but I honestly thought he was in his late 30s. His Hinge profile said that he was 36 when we met. Hone is in incredible shape. He goes to the gym 5 days a week. He surfs regularly. Hi, are you coming to snuggle? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Oh gosh, back to the story. He goes to the gym 5 days a week. He surfs regularly. He plays rugby with guys half his age. He doesn't even have a single gray hair. He has great skin. He could easily pass for late 30s. I guess there were some little hints, but I just brushed them off. He would occasionally mention things from the 70s or the 80s, like meeting a famous New Zealand celebrity, because that's where we live, who died in the 80s. He has really classic tastes in music and makes references to old TV shows, but I just thought he was really into retro stuff. A few nights ago while he was sleeping, I did something that I'm not very proud of. After finding where he hid the key, I looked in his locked desk drawer and looked at his passport. I nearly had a heart attack when I saw the birth year. He's 51, which means he was actually 50 when we met, and he lied about his age by 14 years on Hinge. I feel betrayed. Yes, I snooped, and that was wrong. He's been lying to me for our entire relationship. I mean, our relationship is amazing otherwise, but I just can't get past this. I'm also worried about what this means for our future. I want kids someday, and now I'm dating someone who will be 70 when our hypothetical children would be graduating high school. I think I'm gonna break up with him over this, and does that make me the bad apple? My best friend says that I'm being ageist and that age is just a number if we're happy, but I feel like the lying is the bigger issue here. Okay, I have a few questions because are you okay? You're leaving. Okay, goodbye. I think the biggest question that I have is like, yes, his Hinge profile listed that he said he was 36, right? Has he also verbally like kept up with that bit through the relationship? If he has, that's a completely different story. If he hasn't, I'm wondering if he genuinely doesn't remember that he did that. Like, I can totally see him setting it up to like appear younger and then forgetting that he did that. Not that that's okay either. Like, lying on dating apps to get people to like you, like, that's really messed up, period. But my opinion of him will be really different if he like kept up the bit, like, oh yeah, it's my birthday coming up, I'll be 37. Or if he like genuinely doesn't remember he like told that fib when you first met. Because if he's like actively talking about the 70s and the 80s and meeting the celebrity, I'm wondering if he like really doesn't realize. Not that it's any better, again, not that it's good to lie on dating apps like that. It's just like, to me, one's more drastic than the other, if that makes sense. I definitely think it's an unfortunate reality that people will put like little fibs in their dating profile to try and get someone's attention or try and like feel or what's the word I'm looking for? To like try to get someone to give them a chance, and then like, oh, but when the truth comes out, you see I'm a great person. Like, first of all, that's not how that works. Because now you just look dishonest, right? Like, that's the issue. Now you just look like you fib, that you don't see a problem with lying to get what you want. Like, that's a completely different red flag. And people have standards for a reason. Like, You're not saying, I don't want to be with this guy because I don't like old people. No, you're saying, like, I want kids and I want my partner to be around for my kid's life and not be 70 when they're graduating high school. Because a lot of health complications can happen when you're 70. Like, that's a valid concern. People have preferences for these reasons. Like, if you want someone that is a lot older or a lot younger, a lot taller or a lot shorter, like, there are reasons people have these preferences, and just because, like, fibbing about it and showing that you're a nice person doesn't change what people want in their long-term lives. Like, I have a friend who does a lot of, like, online dating, and she's a very tall woman, and a guy lied about his height by, like, 3 or 4 inches. So she was, like, 3 inches taller than him, and he's like, oh, well, height's not everything, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm such a good guy. You're gonna not go out with me because I'm a little shorter than you? No, first of all, she's not gonna go out with him again because he lied on purpose. But 2, she's very self-conscious about her height. So, like, being with someone who's shorter than her, it's not about him being short. It's about that it makes her self-conscious about being so tall. That's not gonna go away because you showed you're a nice guy, even though a nice person wouldn't lie to begin with. But anyways, I'm rambling and giving a lot of justifications when, like, the reality is he lied. Like, I don't think it's the age thing, that him being so old is the biggest red flag. It's the fact that he lied, in general. But, like, here's the thing. I would give him bad apple either way, but I'd really give him a rotten apple if he kept the bit up. That's really what I'm saying. I just want to know if he verbally kept the bit up for the entire relationship, or if he really just forgot he said that in the first place. And that has nothing to do with, like, changing my rulings. I'm just being nosy, because I just want to know. But either way, it doesn't matter. You're not wrong for holding those standards for yourself. You're not wrong for not wanting to date someone so much older than you. That's 14 years. That's not a couple of years, that's 14 years. That's like I taught 14-year-olds. That's a whole person. And you're also not wrong for, like, wanting to leave someone who, like, started your relationship on a lie. That's, you know, what else are they fibbing about? Have they really been fibbing this whole time, or did they forget? If they have been fibbing this whole time, what else is a lie? What else isn't real? What else can they easily and seamlessly lie to you about? Is your relationship all perfect otherwise, like you say, or, like, are there other things going on that you might not know about? Like, these are the questions that would go through my mind. And I know there are going to be some people who, like, really hate that she snooped, and I have a few thoughts on that. First of all, I've always, like, seen those memes when I was growing up that's like, if you snoop and you find something, you're not wrong, they are, but if you snoop and don't find something, then it's you're in the wrong. And I agree with that to a degree. I feel like I'm a huge believer that, like, our instincts are wild. If you're someone that has good instincts, like, I have pretty good instincts. If my gut's yelling at me about something, something's up. So I feel like if someone is giving you a reason to have those, like, gut feelings and those gut instincts, then yeah, look into it. But if you're wrong, then maybe that's a sign that therapy is for you, because that's some kind of projection. That's some kind of, like, issue that you need to deal with internally. And that's my thought about that. And if you have that kind of, like, projection issue that you need to go to therapy for, and, like, you do snoop, and, you know, your partner has a right to feel however they feel about that, because you're now accusing them of doing wrong and they didn't do anything. They're allowed to react to that. They're allowed to feel a certain type of way about that. And they might not, and they might understand, and they might support you in getting help, but they also might feel like, I don't like being accused, I don't like feeling like being vilified like that. You know, it could go either way, so, you know. Snoop at your own risk. That's what I think about that. Anyways, I'm going good apple. I'm rambling enough for this story. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for sending my sister flowers? I, 37 male, have always been close to my sister, 35 female. We talk regularly, and during one such conversation, she told me she's been feeling really depressed and overwhelmed lately. As we were talking, I could tell she was holding back tears. So I decided to do something nice for her. I contacted a local florist and put in an order for some flowers. I had them delivered to my sister's place of employment with a note reading, "Thinking of you." A few hours later, the florist called me up and told me that a man has been calling them non-stop, demanding they tell him who sent his wife flowers. They tried to explain that it was against their policy to reveal that information, but he wasn't taking no for an answer. Apparently, he became so aggressive and threatening over the phone that the shop called me to ask my permission to reveal the name of the sender, that man being my brother-in-law. It turns out, my sister called her husband to thank him for the flowers. He told her he hadn't sent any flowers and accused her of having an affair. He believed that her affair partner sent them to her, which is why he called the florist like a lunatic, demanding names. Now my sister is more depressed than ever, and she's been fighting with my brother-in-law ever since. My friends think that I should have included my name on the card, and had I done that, they say this blow-up never would have happened. But I say it's my brother-in-law to blame, as he's the one who can't control his temper. So was I the bad apple? When I originally read this story, my first instinct is like crabapple, but the more I think about it, the more I want to go with bad apple on this one, and here's why. Just hold on. When I originally thought crabapple, it was because of like you totally should have signed your name for a lot of reasons. I'm not even thinking about the brother-in-law, like he's just, we'll get to that in a second. And like, oh, maybe you simply forgot, you didn't sign your name, oops, crabapple, be a little bit more careful next time. And the reason that the name thing is important is because like, if I were to get flowers sent to me anonymously, and I didn't know who they were from, I would immediately fear for my safety. I had some people who found my address before and kept sending things to the house, and they thought they were being very sweet or whatever, but I didn't know who this was, and it was very scary. It's not funny, it's not cute. Like, there are real stalkers out there. There are real people who will harm the like objects of their obsession, and it's not even just content creators. You would probably hear more about it from content creators, but like women in general would fear for their safety because like, who's watching me? Who knows where I live? Is this like a threat? Is this supposed to be cute? Is it going to escalate? Is it not going to escalate? Do they live nearby? Are they just sending something to be sweet? Are they going to come to my home? Like it's not cute, it's not funny. And at first I thought, crabapple, because be a little bit more self-aware. These are very real issues that women deal with in not just the country, but the world. But then I realized that like the florists specifically ask, who do you want us to say these are from? So this guy would have had to specifically say, nah, don't worry about it. For why? It's one of those things that he had to blatantly refuse. What was the reason? And I'm not even talking about like, the brother-in-law has his own issues, because like if I were in that situation, why is the brother-in-law's first instinct, fair, and not oh my gosh, is my wife safe? Is someone stalking her? Is someone harassing her? Let's get to the bottom of this. Now, if he were to call, honestly, if he were to call the florist concerned about that, 1000%, I would say that's a W for the husband, for sure. The fact that he was like so quick to, fair, you just did something wrong. Yeah, brother-in-law, husband, that guy's bad apple. But I would 1000% be on board with him being that aggressive, thinking that someone was stalking his wife, for sure. So like, to just blatantly refuse to put your name on the card, at face value, it feels so innocent. But then you think about it and it's like, okay, but what was your purpose for that? Why did you tell them no? And that's what makes me lean more bad apple, because you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm even explaining it well. Maybe you don't. It's just, it's my instincts. It's the gut feeling that I'm getting. It feels more nefarious than it seems. You know what I mean? Why would you blatantly tell them not to put a name on it? Why would you put such a generic, like you didn't even put any callback to your conversation with her in the note. Thinking of you. That's very broad and generic. It feels like, were you trying to start something? Were you hoping that maybe if no one knew who they were from, the husband might give her a little bit more attention? Like, what was your goal here? It feels like there was a goal, and I don't know what it was, and that's why I'm just going bad apple, because you made a blatant choice and didn't think about the consequences, and it impacted other people. That's why I'm going bad apple. Like, I can't see a good reason for you to blatantly say no. So, bad apple. I mean, if there's something that I'm missing or something that I'm not thinking of, definitely let me know in the comments, but I have a feeling it feels sketchy to me. I don't like it. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for not sympathizing with a dying man? I, 27 male, have recently found out that my stepfather was diagnosed with a terminal illness. After learning this news, I found myself struggling to feel any sadness. He's been in my life since I was 11 when both parents separated. From the moment we met, He was always two-faced to me. When my mother was in the room, he was my biggest champion. However, whenever we were alone, he'd quickly become my greatest critic. He actively pushed that I was the cause for all arguments between them and that I was ruining the family. His hatred of me intensified further when my younger brother was born and I was about 13. My mother's aware of our troubled relationship, but didn't know quite how vicious he's been to me. His actions sent me into a deep depression that took years to recover from. So when I turned 18, I left my home as he privately insisted that I do. From that moment, I never returned or asked for a penny from them. I always supported my little brother, and I tried my best to engage with my family, and I also tried my best to accept him for his flaws and to look past our relationship, as troubled as it might be. However, recently, when I learned about his diagnosis, I couldn't help but chuckle a little. After all these years of being called stupid and useless and a waste of space by him, I genuinely don't care about his well-being. I do care about my mother and my younger brother and will support them in any way that I can, but overall, I don't really care about his death and I'm struggling to find any sympathy I know that my family is expecting from me. Am I the bad apple for that? I feel like I've said this a lot of times and I still stand by it. Even if I don't agree with somebody's feelings, I will always say that like your feelings are always valid, right? And I'm not saying that he should feel bad for this guy's terminal illness. I'm just saying in general. I'm saying in general, whether people, me or someone else agrees with your feelings or not, people can't control their feelings. Like when someone just tells you, oh, don't be sad, don't be mad, like, you can't control how you feel. It just is what it is. You're sad when you're sad, you're mad when you're mad, you love who you love, like it is what it is. You can't control your feelings. So like I'm never gonna tell someone that they're wrong for feeling a certain type of way, okay? Now here's what I will say. Even though you are struggling to find any sorrow and somber feelings in the passing of your stepfather, that's not going to be the case for the stepmother and your mother and your half-brother, right? And they're going to be feeling a lot of feelings right now. Like their entire world is collapsing. So what I'm going to say for you is that if they're having a moment, any like non-feelings that you're having, I strongly feel need to be kept to yourself. And if you not feeling sad is in like watching you be okay with what's happening is making them feel worse, you might need to like separate yourself for a little bit. Not that you're doing anything wrong, you're just feeling what you're feeling, but like in order to let them grieve properly, seeing someone who doesn't care about the husband's death, the father's death, they might need to not see that. So if you can put on like a good face for them, 1000% be in their corner. If you can't, I would say you might need to remove yourself every now and then if they're having a moment, just to be like respectful of their feelings and to not make them feel like you don't care, because I know that you don't, but you don't want to tell them that, at least like right now in their grief period, right? I'm all for being realistic about who those who passed were. I know someone who passed who honestly was a very, very hateful person. A very hateful person. And hearing people talk about how they were the nicest person in the world, like, I'm not a fan of that. We can be realistic about people who have passed, but like you don't need to do it right as soon as they passed. It doesn't need to be the day or the week of or even the year of. You can be realistic about who the dead were years later if you're reminiscing, but like let the people who are grieving grieve, in my opinion. And there might be some people who disagree with that, but I think that if you love these people, which I know you do, it's your mom and your half-brother, let them have their grief. Death is weird. Death brings a lot of weird feelings. I have experienced a lot of it in the last 10 years. It's indescribable. It's weird, the kind of feelings that will resurface even just with the idea of death looming in your life. It's pretty wild. So let them have their moment. You're not wrong for not reacting in the same way. Just make sure that they don't even perceive you rubbing it in their face. Not that I think that you would, but it can be a very vulnerable time, and they could feel very vulnerable in their feelings. So make sure that they don't even perceive you as rubbing it in their face. Is my only advice. But Good apple otherwise. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for humiliating a man in a bar? I, 33 female, work in a very small, technical, and specific male-dominated field. I won't go into too much information on it, as I think you could easily find my information if I did, but let's just say it's a subcategory of law. I graduated 9 years ago, and for anyone wondering, I'm not in the US and the system is different, so I did only study for 5 years. And now I'm a lawyer as well as a researcher. I publish some work here and there, but nothing too major, and no one outside of that field knows my work. Yesterday, I went to the bar with a couple of friends who introduced me to one of their friends who works in the same field as me. I was really excited to meet him because it's rare to meet people who work in that field. He didn't do exactly what I do. He's not a lawyer, but he's a legal advisor, but we work on the same topics. Naturally, we started talking about our work. At one point, we were discussing a point on which we had very different opinions, so I explained mine to him, and he replied by saying that my opinion was based on nothing, and that his was based on the work of a professional. The thing is, though, the professional he was basing his opinion on was actually me. He basically started explaining my work to me, but in a completely wrong way, and missed all of the points that I made in the paper he was referencing. I asked if he was sure that's what the author meant, and he said, oh yes, because it was actually quite simple. For another good 20 minutes, he explained all of it to me in details, like I was a first-year law student. I didn't say anything because it was actually kind of funny to watch him say all the things that were completely wrong with so much confidence. After that, the topic changed and the night went on, but at the end of the night, before leaving, I decided to tell him that it was actually me who wrote the work that he quoted all of his information on, and that he clearly hadn't really understood any of it. He reacted badly and got angry and told me that I manipulated him to humiliate him. He yelled at me for not saying that it was my work in the beginning, and I simply replied that he embarrassed himself and left. I woke up this morning to text from my friends saying that I was wrong for causing drama and tension, and that I could have been so much nicer to their friend. I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong here. I mean, yeah, I could have told him right away, but is it that big of a deal that I didn't? Like, I don't really know. Am I the bad apple? I love when those things happen. It's so funny to me. I know there's gonna be some people so angry in the comments that are like, oh my god, you just hate men, blah, blah, blah. No, I love when anyone who's condescending and rude and mean, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, here's what it is, and they know exactly what they're talking about. No, you're wrong. Like, I love it so much. Because I can't deal with like ignorance, and I try to be, I'm not a perfect human being, but I try to be very open to the idea of you're never too old to learn something new, and you are never too old to like change your stance on something. So like, I love when people talk about ideas that they believe in. I think it's very healthy to have discourse and conversation about like fundamental beliefs, or something as basic as like, let's talk about work. But I know like some people's work really like get into some heavy topics. And I think it's possible to agree to disagree, but what I can't stand is when people are like, oh, well, you don't agree with me, you're just the worst person in the entire world, depending on what it's about. I feel like being able to look at another side of an argument and say like, I hear what you're saying, you believe X, Y, Z, and this is why I don't agree with you, is like very healthy communication, very healthy communication. That being said, like, I think the guy was completely in the wrong. Like, the way that he's attacking her and saying, this is so easy and you clearly don't get it and you don't understand it, like, that's just rude. That is really rude. The one thing I'm kind of like, that, like, I know not everyone's going to agree with me, and this is more of like a personal preference. When she was going to him and saying like, hey, are you sure the author meant X, Y, Z? Are you sure he meant this? And he's like, yeah, because it's so simple. She doesn't owe it to anyone to take it further, right? She doesn't have to. But my personal preference, like just me being who I am, like I dedicate every week, we do Am I the Bad Apple, to promote the idea of conversing productively and to promote the idea of like exchanging ideas and hearing different perspectives. So like, I understand that not everyone's going to agree with me on this, because not everyone believes in this so wholeheartedly as I do. But I would have loved to see her say, hey, I see you are interpreting the author as meaning X, Y, Z. She doesn't even have to say that she's the author. I would have just liked to hear her say, I interpret their words meaning XYZ instead because XYZ. She doesn't even have to out herself as the author if she doesn't want to, but like, when it comes to people who don't understand what they're talking about, they have no idea that they don't understand what they're talking about. And yeah, it's really annoying and rude when they are like spouting out misinformation because they have no idea what they're saying. And it's not other people's job to correct them, but if no one ever does, and no one ever like, hey, I don't think it actually means XYZ, I think it means XYZ, they're just gonna continue spreading misinformation, and that's gonna teach someone else something wrong. So like, I personally don't agree with just like listening to them go on for 20, 30 minutes about something incorrectly. I, especially if it were my own work, would feel so passionate about them saying it right and spreading the correct information about whatever it was. Like, I would correct them. Not saying that she had to out herself as the author and make him feel bad about that, but like, why would you not if it's something that you care about and it's something that you're passionate about? I still think he's a jerk for like telling you it's so simple, you just don't get it. Well, like, if she's a professional in the field, she's a lawyer. A lawyer with a law degree is gonna have more qualifications than a legal advisor. And I'm not, hold on, because I know that there are paralegals who have been in the field for years who know just as much as lawyers, but I'm saying that they're the same age and they have the same years of, I'm assuming they're the same age because they're in the same friend group, you know, they're in the same friend group, so they're about the same age, and one has a further degree than the other. I'm assuming that she probably understands these concepts at least a little better, is what I'm assuming. So for him to just like try to puff his peacock feathers, that's just a jerk move. And then when he learned later on, like, no, that's all my work that you're talking about, from, oh, well, you manipulated me. She didn't do crap. She didn't say anything. As much as I wish she did say something, she didn't say anything. Except for, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I'm sure. And for the friends to get on her back about making him feel bad, did they get on his back for making her feel bad when he was trying to tell her that she didn't know what she was talking about? Like, are we keeping the same energy for both of them? That's what I want to know about the friends. But I'm gonna go Crabapple, because again, I don't think she necessarily did anything wrong, but I know that I would have acted differently in the situation, and I know that there are gonna be a lot of people who go Good Apple, and that's totally fine. I just am someone who's very passionate about trying to fix misinformation and things like that. And again, I'm not a perfect person. None of us are. But that is something that I feel strongly about, especially for specific topics in the world. So yeah, I feel good about Crabapple. All right, so I got 2 good apples, a bad apple, and a Crabapple. At least that's what I got. Did you get anything similar to me? Did you get a different set of apples today? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear all about them. As a reminder, if you want a chance for your stories to be featured on Am I the Bad Apple, you can send them to my subreddit, r/AmITheBadApple. And for your well wishes today on this Wednesday instead of Tuesday, I know I'm still getting my life together. Y'all know it's been a rough time. I'm trying so hard. So it's National Twin Day, so if you're a twin, today's your day. And tell me, I want to know, are you an identical twin? Are you a fraternal twin? I need to know. These are the questions that matter, okay? We love twins. They're fascinating. And if you're not a twin, it is okay. It is also National Answer the Phone Like Buddy the Elf Day.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Put that down.
Hello? Hello?
My favorite color is teal or pink, depending on the day. But never together, because that's too much like cotton candy. I love the movie Elf. It's so good. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and hope to see you all next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.